What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to stay at daily Ravens content, please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell if you want to get notified every time I upload a brand new video, because later tonight I will have another video out. It'll be another one of those daily recaps of the offseason. So that will be out probably around 7:30. Maybe 6:30 Eastern time if you want to see that, going over all the press conferences and news of today for the Ravens. But let's get into this video. And the first thing I got to say is I was wrong. I'm not afraid to admit when I was wrong. And in this case, I was, because like a week ago, I made a video on like why we shouldn't sign Julio, or we shouldn't trade for Julio Jones, and we shouldn't do it, and we won't do it. And like I said, I was wrong. In the last week or so, whether it was through the live with the viewers and talking about it, shout out live with the viewers. We'll be live this Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. But whether it was talking about that, whether it was Julio Jones going on undisputed, just overall throughout the week, I just kind of shifted my perspective towards the Julio, bandwagon or train, or whatever you want to call it, the caboose. I don't know, but here's why I think that not only should the Ravens do it, but why they will do it. Because I actually think that they are going to be the team that trades for Julio Jones, and here's why. Now, I will say, just as a reminder, June 1st, you have to wait till after June 1st to trade for him, because it reduces the cap hit, and the Falcons are in a cap situation. That's why they need to trade him. But first off, why they will, Wink's comments about the edge position. I made a video on it, and he not only seemed very confident in Odafe Oweh and Dalen Hayes, but he was very confident with Sack Daddy, a.k.a. Jalen Ferguson. He's confident in Tyus Bowser. In a gist of what he said was like, we don't need, that specialist or things like that. Like, Wink's going to be able to do his job and get sacks for the defense. Now, whether or not I agree with Wink's philosophy is besides the point. His comments were showing an inclination for the Ravens to not go in the direction of signing another edge rusher. Now, maybe it's smoke and mirrors. Maybe it's like Eric DeCosta saying, I'm so insulted by your, lack of faith in our wide receiver core, and then drafts 2 wide receivers and signs Sammy Watkins. But I think this could be a bit of a thing where it's like, yeah, the Ravens feel confident. Now, number 2, this is the most important part, and it's a trade that already happened. And I haven't seen anybody talking about this. I haven't seen it on Twitter. I thought of this myself, probably right when I saw that Julio Jones stuff. I don't know why it popped into my head. But I know Atlanta has been saying, they want a first-round pick, and I don't think the deal will be done for a first-round pick. You look at what the Ravens said they wanted for Orlando Brown Jr. They wanted a first-round pick. Technically, they got a first-round pick, but the returned value estimated was like a second-round pick. I still thought it was a very valuable trade, but the Ravens wanted like an outright first-round pick. They didn't get that. With Julio Jones's comments on Undisputed, that definitely lowered his draft stock like significantly. And that's why, if he didn't know he was on the air, I feel really bad for him, because that did like really hurt the Falcons. If he did know he was on the air, then whatever, he just tanked his draft, or not his draft stock, his trade value. And so with that definitely lowered the value. So I don't think they'll be able to get a first for him. In my opinion, what it'll take to get Julio will be a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick. That is my estimation. And so let's get into the trade that already happened. It actually wasn't the Orlando Brown Jr. trade. It's just another trade. There were 2 trades that already happened. Looking at what the Ravens did in the offseason, most particularly the draft, the Ravens had 2 thirds, 2 fourths, 2 fifths, and a 6th-round pick in the non-first day of the draft. And you know what they did? They drafted 2 third-round picks. They get into the 4th round, and what did they do? They traded back with the Arizona Cardinals. They traded their 4th-round pick, their 6th-round pick, in exchange for 24 picks back in the 5th round, as well as a 2022 4th-round pick. Now, that 4th round pick, I think, could absolutely be involved in the Julio Jones deal, because before the draft, everybody still knew about the Julio Jones situation. I believe I had made a video on it and things like that. And everybody knew June 1st was still going to be the deadline. And everybody knew that the 2022 draft picks were what would be necessary to trade for Julio. We wouldn't be able to trade go back in the time machine. We couldn't trade Orlando Brown Jr. for Julio Jones. We couldn't do it because they needed to wait, and we needed the draft pick and things like that. Technically, we could have waited till June 1st, but we couldn't have done it before the draft because of the 2022 picks. So we couldn't trade 2021 draft picks. So going into the draft, Eric DeCosta knew that he would need 2022 draft picks, and he added one in the 4th round, which is a valuable round. I think people still overvalue 4th round picks. Like, people heavily overvalue 4th round picks. They do have very good potential, but you combine a 4th round pick with a 2nd round pick and not have to give up a 1st round pick. That would be absolutely instrumental in, helping the Ravens build for their future. Even though, come on, if we got Julio Jones, we'd be picking 32nd, which is basically a 2nd round pick. But overall, you think about that, and Eric DeCosta doesn't do things willy-nilly. That's probably the worst possible phrase I could have used to describe it. But Eric DeCosta, he has a plan. When he does things, he has a plan. He signed Kari Vedvik. He had a plan. He traded Kari Vedvik for a 5th round pick. Boom. That 5th round pick, honestly, I can't remember if that was used to trade for Marcus Peters or Calais Campbell, but it was used to trade for one of them. Those types of things. Eric DeCosta always seems like he has a plan. And initially it seemed like, he's just trading back and getting a 4th round pick. And nobody that I've heard of, maybe somebody else has, I'm sorry if somebody else has thought about this, nobody really connected the 4th round pick to possibly being a piece that we could use to trade for Julio. Because the Ravens a lot of times do trade back. And this is going to be something, because I believe they have 3 4th round picks, I believe, next year. I believe. And that type of thing is, that's a lot of value. And being able to trade those would be absolutely crucial. Another thing in the trade that could happen, I wouldn't be overly surprised with, is if the Ravens traded a 1st and a 4th and maybe got back a 3rd or a 2nd for Julio. I don't know. That could be another possibility where the Ravens do end up giving up a 1st round pick, but they get back a 2nd round pick and give up a 4th. And obviously they get Julio Jones. There's a bunch of different situations, but I think the 4th round pick will be involved. And then kind of the final part is I'm not a big believer in buying into where the player says that they kind of want to go. First of all, Julio Jones didn't name any teams. He, said that he wants to go somewhere to win. If you haven't seen on Undisputed, he said, I want to go somewhere where I can win. And, obviously the Ravens are a team with that, but Julio Jones isn't the one negotiating the trade. No, this is Atlanta. Yes, Julio Jones, I believe, did ask for a trade, but Atlanta is still in a situation where they do actually have to trade him because of the cap situation. So they're going to do what's best for the team. You look at guys like Deshaun Watson. Come on, when you have a franchise player, you don't want to trade him. And obviously Deshaun Watson, he's got other stuff going on. But Aaron Rodgers, you don't want to trade your franchise player. Julio Jones is Atlanta's franchise player. And they're if they trade him, they're going to do what's best for Atlanta, because losing him will be absolutely detrimental to not only their team currently, but just the legacy of the team. When you trade away one of the best, maybe the best player to ever play for your franchise, it's rough. And as an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, trading away Russell Westbrook, I do understand that from a team's perspective. But, at the same time, when OKC traded away Westbrook, they did take into account that he wanted to play for Houston. They did that. So, teams sometimes do follow through on the wishes. Sometimes they don't. It depends on the general management. I don't know a ton about the general manager of the Atlanta Falcons. I believe it's a new GM who they just got. So, new GM. Probably don't want, they really don't want to trade Julio. If you're a new general manager, you come into Atlanta and then they're like, oh yeah, you got to trade Julio Jones. You're not going to be liked. That's very rough. But Julio also said that like he wants to play with a quarterback. I believe the comparison was Dante Culpepper. He might have said Randall Cunningham, but I believe it was Dante Culpepper. And he said that basically, I want a guy like that, a guy with a strong arm. He's mobile. He can move his legs. And Lamar doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. Lamar isn't Vic, and don't think this is a shot at Lamar. He doesn't have a rocket. Deshaun Watson doesn't have a strong arm. Doesn't mean he's a bad thrower of the football. Okay, that's not me saying Lamar can't throw. Okay, doesn't have the strongest arm ever. But obviously in the mobile category, most mobile quarterback ever. So I think Lamar does fit the type of quarterback that Julio would want to play with. Don't know if he'd want to be, being that kind of rushing attack. I don't know. But like I said, I don't buy it too much into, what a player says about like teams that he'd like to go. I just don't see it as much of a factor. The team will do what's best for the team. So especially when you're a new general manager, you're going to do what's best for your job. Really, like you could get fired if people don't like you, if they feel like, oh, you gave Julio to the team he wants, but you screwed Atlanta. They would maybe fire him, and he'd be on a much shorter leash. But for me now, I really hope the job gets done. I think the job will get done just because of that 4th round pick that we have. The comments by Wink. And obviously the Ravens just their willingness to win right now. Remember, they offered Juju like $11 million. That's what we'd be paying Julio. And you don't think that we would take Julio over Juju? Come on. But let me know your thoughts. Make sure to come to the live stream, live with the viewers, Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to be on the show, DM me. Man, I always point the wrong way. DM me at TTB_Ravens on Twitter. We can get you on the show. You can be one of the viewers, and it can be a lot of fun. But thank you, everybody, for watching. Subscribe to Daily Ravens content. Check out the video I post later today as well, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.